Before the silence, there was noise. Ordinary noise that never felt like a blessing because it never had to be. Sprinklers hissing, my boy squealing when the cold water hit his ankles, my wife telling me to hold still for one picture, like I had the patience for that. We made bargains with time without knowing it. Next weekend. We'll do it next month. Let's wait till school's out. We had rituals, pizza on Fridays, laundry on Sundays. A quiet prayer I didn't admit was a prayer. May it stay like this. I knew where every crack in our sidewalk lived, where every stubborn cabinet hinge complained in the kitchen. I knew the smell of our son's hair when sun and grass got tangled in it, and the way my wife's laugh climbed a half step when she tried not to wake him. We worried about small things because we had the luxury to. If I could go back, I would take a recording of this. Just the plain soundtrack of a common day. The squeak of swing chains, the snap of a photo, the soft talk we use when we love someone and aren't trying to win anything. I would put it in my pocket for the days that came next. The first cough was a pin dropped in a crowded room. Nothing, we thought. Because nothing bad belongs to us, not today. Then the pin became a handful of coins, then a bag of marbles, then an avalanche of glass. Headlines learned a new word each morning. Lines grew at doors that never used to have lines. The TV said, cluster and containment. And I said, it's just the news being the news. But the news moved from a city to a state, to a map that looked like a bruise spreading. The hospital hallway smelled like bleach and sorrow. A nurse asked me to stand behind a piece of yellow tape, and I told her I was family. She told me everyone here was someone's family. My wife's hand felt too hot and too cold at the same time. My boy slept on my shoulder like he used to when he was small, and I let myself believe he was just tired. There is a sound a siren makes when it's the only voice left in a city. It is not a sound you forget. It is a tunnel you walk down for days. And then, just as suddenly, it is gone. The last day I remember being a normal man was the day I promised my wife I would bring her favorite soup home. I can tell you the flavor. I can't tell you what I said when the doctor shook his head. I don't think there were words for that part. I dug with a garden spade because it was what I had, and because my hands needed to be busy with something that was not breaking. The earth gave like a tired lung. I didn't know the right words. I didn't know if there were any. There are rituals for the end of the world, but I didn't get the manual. I tied the rings on a ribbon because it felt wrong to put them in my pocket, and wrong to wear them both, and wrong to pretend they were just metal. I laid them on the dirt and waited for, I don't know what. Permission, maybe. A breeze said nothing, and that seemed like an answer. I thought about the little arguments nobody cares about. How the dishwasher should be loaded. How shoes shouldn't live in the hallway. How the good towels are for guests even if you never have guests. I thought about the important arguments we also never finished. Money. Time. The price of being tired. If there is a math to grief, it multiplies everything you didn't say by forever. The city behind me had already chosen a new shape for itself. Cars paused mid-gesture in the streets. A conversation everyone walked out on at once. A bus blinked an empty route. A grocery cart sat on its side like a horse that decided not to get up again. A million lives leave fingerprints. The world was smudged with them. That evening, I opened a small notebook and wrote, Day 1. Food, 2 days. Water, 1. Health, fine. Morale, a number I didn't recognize as mine. I didn't write their names because names felt like doors to a room I couldn't afford to enter. The pencil scratched loud in the quiet. Counting felt like control, and control felt like a raft. I told myself out loud, you will move in the morning. You will choose a rule and obey it. Hands clean, feet dry. Sleep under something that still believes itself to be a roof. Don't argue with ghosts. If you see your reflection, don't talk to it. If you see their faces, look at your feet and count to 30. Then look up and keep walking. I placed my palm on the dirt like it was their shoulder and said the only truth I had. I will not waste this. The last of the light folded itself into the river. Night is louder when no one shares it with you. There is a way to walk through a dead city that doesn't wake it. Heel, then bawl, then breath you can't hear. I learned the geography of absence, the way sound carries under a concrete awning, the way pigeons startle on a rooftop and make you think of footsteps that aren't yours. I took the names off buildings and replaced them with what they could give me. Water here, tools there. Shadows I don't trust on that block. In a grocery store, I learned that even rot has a schedule. The produce went first. The meat said nothing, but you could smell its opinion. The dry goods kept their secrets longer. I took cans and wrote in my book, beans, 3, soup, 2. Stole a can opener like a small sin and apologized to nobody. In the pharmacy, the glass on the floor spoke in a language of tiny chimes under my boots. I took bandages, alcohol wipes, hid behind an end cap when wind shoved the door and made it groan. It is embarrassing what a door can do to you when you're alone. Apartments became museums where the families never left the frame. I stood in someone else's kitchen and put my hand on the fridge like I was meeting the last living thing in the room. You begin to make bargains. If there's an unopened jar, I'll take one and leave one. If there's a child's drawing on the fridge, I won't open the pantry at all. Sometimes mercy is a way of believing you are still someone worth saving. I wrote new rules as I walked. Don't climb if you're tired. Don't run unless something is actually chasing you. Don't whistle, ever. If you cry, cry into your sleeve. If you find a mirror, check your face for cuts and leave the rest of the questions alone. Count stairwells, count sips, count the birds on the telephone wire because counting keeps your hands busy when your hands want to break. The city is not empty. It is full of almosts. Almost voices. An elevator belt shifting somewhere deep in a building. Almost light. An emergency exit that still believes. Almost people. Jackets on chairs. Coffee cups with a ring dried at the lip. I said my name, Marcus, just to prove I could make a shape in the air that stayed. It fell to the ground like dust. I picked it up and put it back in my mouth and tried again. On day 7, I found a voice that wasn't mine. The radio fell from a cabinet like it had been waiting for an apology. I turned the dial the way you rub a lamp in a story that doesn't belong to adults. Static at first, a blizzard that forgot its snow. Then a thread in the noise, a tone, official and frightened at the same time. Safe zone operation. Antidote window, 30 days. Last intake at sunset, day 30. Beacon on channel 7-3. The words were brittle, like they'd been reheated too many times, but they held. I sat on the floor with glass in my knees and repeated them until they lived in my teeth. 30 days. Not a sentence, An assignment, not a death. An exam. I unfolded a transit map on the counter and traced a line with a shaking finger. Bridges, tunnels, places I didn't trust in good years. I wrote, objective, reach gate, constraints, food, water, body that thinks it can still do old tricks, threats, humans, weather, memory. I learned how hope makes you stupid if you let it. You want to run. You want to howl. The body stands up and says, I remember sprinting. And the knees say, you remember incorrectly. So I made a slow plan. Daylight only. Stay low. Make landmarks out of dumb things. A pink bicycle chained to a parking meter. A mural of a blue whale. A mailbox dented like it lost a fight with a truck. When terror arrives, you need directions you can grab like a railing. I packed with ceremony. 2 cans, 1 bottle, a photo I didn't look at, the notebook, a cheap pen, a better pen I would lose on day 12. I put the radio in last, wrapped in a shirt that still remembered my wife. I said out loud what I had not let myself say yet. We are going. The empty store didn't argue. A good sign. The city sounded different when the future put a date on the calendar. Sirens were ghosts now. The new song was Wind Through Scaffold, a flag caught on the stump of a pole, the rattle of a street sign trying to remember the alphabet. I walked south and pretended I was only a man on an errand. That's all survival is sometimes. An errand you take too seriously. On day 9, I learned there are kinds of quiet, the bad kind that makes your ears ring with what you miss, and the good kind that is just enough room for a small voice to live in. I saw the fire before I saw the people, fingers of orange painting the brick. I stood far enough away to leave if I had to, close enough to be seen because surprises get men killed. Come on then, a woman said. Not a question, not a threat. She had the kind of voice you lend your trust to on accident. Her hands were quick and clean. She cut away my old bandage and scolded me for making a knot like a child. I wanted to argue just to feel normal. I didn't. She dabbed with alcohol and I hissed and she said, "Good, means you're still here." We ate in the rhythm people share when talking can't fix anything. Pass, chew, swallow, hand a can back, nod. The two with her watched me like a dog that might bite or help. Both are worth keeping. They asked no questions that needed the past tense. When I thanked them, the woman, Priya, shrugged like it was nothing and everything. "We've seen the beacon," she said. "You're going for it." "I am." "Then go at first light. And if you ever hear music, walk the other way." I didn't ask for the story behind that advice. The city writes some stories in a hand you don't need to read. We traded. Beans for antiseptic. A promise I wouldn't waste their kindness for a promise they'd keep breathing even if it got expensive. At dawn, the fire was only a memory of itself. The alley watched me leave. I wanted to take them with me. I didn't ask because I didn't have room in my bag for the guilt if something ate them because I opened my mouth. Walking away from good people might be the hardest part of staying one. Day 12 taught me the other kind of gravity, the one made of people who learned the wrong lesson. The banner said help in a red that looked too honest. That should have been enough. The net took me by the calves and hope took me by the throat. I hit the asphalt and heard my breath leave like it was done with me. They came as smirks with boots attached. Men who liked the new rules because there weren't any. The big one wore his history on his face, a scar that said, "I didn't learn when I should have," and a necklace of keys that said, "I took what wasn't mine and made it mine." He crouched to see if fear has a smell. It does. "Let's inventory you," he told his boys. and my bag emptied into their hands before the sentence finished. Food, water, knife, radio wrapped in my wife's shirt. He held the radio to his ear like a seashell and said, "What do we have here? Church for the optimists." I could have begged. I did the math instead. Sprinkler heads along the curb, a metal panel with a lock nobody loved, a lever, always a lever. I waited for a joke I could laugh at. He provided one without meaning to, and when they laughed, I rolled, kicked, ripped the panel, threw the lever like I was an Old Testament prophet. Water came like applause. Chaos is a ladder and a hole. They slipped. I crawled. The net cut, the air returned. The keys jingled when he reached for me and missed. "This isn't over," he promised with a smile that had rust on it. I ran with less than I came with and more than I'd had in days. Proof. Proof that the worst wore faces and would keep wearing them. Proof that I would not be improved by their company. I wrote in the notebook with a shaking hand, food -3, water -2, knife -1, health -10, lesson +100. Day 14 gave me warmth I couldn't afford. Candlelight made promises the world couldn't keep. On the steps, a woman in a robe that used to be a robe and now was a costume raised her arms like she had caught the sky and could squeeze it until it cried. The people on their knees wanted what anyone wants, someone else to hold the steering wheel. She spoke in the soft register leaders use when they want you to mistake control for kindness. "Pain is proof," she said. "Suffering is the soap." The cure was a lie. The gate an insult to a god she had made in her reflection. I stood in back, half shadow, half hunger. They had bread. They had blankets. They had certainty. The most dangerous commodity. A man with a bruise he had been given for his benefit looked at me like a dog does when it already decided it loves you. I wanted to take his hand and run. I wanted to take all of their hands and run. But people who stay because they are afraid of leaving will break you for making them consider it. When the woman's eyes found mine, I lowered mine to my boots and counted to 30. On 30, I turned and walked. "Brother," she called sweetly, "there is room in the circle." "There's room outside it too," I said to the street where the wind didn't argue. Hunger is a clean pain. Chains are not. If I starved, I would at least starve free. On day 17, thunder taught me humility. I ducked into the gym because roof is roof, even if it's broken. My flashlight licked the bleachers and a voice sliced the beam. "Turn that off." Not a plea, an order. I killed the light on reflex and my heart wandered off without me for a second. "Just me," I said into the dark. The dark returned a silhouette, a skinny kid with a cap pulled low, slingshot in hand like it already knew how to be a weapon. She sounded half fire, half fever. We negotiated like merchants in a port city. Antibiotics for a multi-tool. Distance like a promise. My rules made room for one new rule. If you find a child with a spine of iron, do not try to parent. Try to listen. We sat on opposite bleacher rows while rain wrote a letter on the roof. She told me not to make light because light draws things. She meant people. She meant men like Boone with keys for trophies. She said she wasn't my problem, and I agreed the way you agree with a tired cat. Then I put a blister pack of pills on the bleacher between us and scooted it across with 2 fingers. "Tonight you are," I told her without asking to own any part of who she was. Lightning turned us into paper cutouts and then into people again. I wrote, "Ally, maybe. Fever, likely." Trust must be earned. It must also be offered in small, edible pieces. We ate silence together until it turned into something that fed us. Day 18. We learned the museum could still hold history if we let it. The mannequins didn't mind our company. Emergency lights hummed like a lullaby talked by machines. Ray asked me if I had people. Had, I said, and the word was a tooth I touched with my tongue to see if it still hurt. It did. She told me about a dog she found for 3 days and named Battery because he ate batteries. We laughed like thieves do, in a corner, quick, looking both ways. I told her my rules and she improved them. Add this one, she said. Don't sleep where someone else would expect you to sleep. Good. I wrote it down. I took her temperature with the back of my hand and she slapped it away without malice. We traded stories about nothing, the best kind. The way the rain smells different when it hits hot pavement. The way a bus seat used to hold the heat of the person before you. We ate half of what we had and saved the better half for when hope burned more calories than walking. In the glass, our reflections looked like ghosts auditioning for a job. You think the gate is real? She asked. I think the clock is, I said. We made a plan that involved mornings and staying low, and a market someone had scrawled on a map with a circle and a warning. I showed her how to fold the map so our route lived on one square, and she showed me how to tie my bandage so it actually stayed tied. I slept with my backpack strap across my chest, and the radio under my shoulder blade like a secret. When I woke at dawn, she was already awake, watching the way the light made the mannequins into people and then back again. Let's go, she said, and it didn't sound like a plea. It sounded like a law. I obeyed. Day 27. 3 days left on the clock. The plaza stank of sweat, smoke, and desperation. Proof the world still had a pulse, though it was faint. Survivors had made a market out of rubble. Tarps strung between broken light poles, crates stacked into counters, pockets turned inside out hoping to be filled. Eyes followed us as we walked in, Ray close at my side. Everyone's gaze was the same, weighing what we carried, asking silently what we could lose before someone else gained. Trades happened in whispers. Water for a can, batteries for a coat. A boy coughed, the kind of cough that brings back every sound you thought you'd buried. My son's cough. Too soft to be dangerous, too sharp to ignore. I gave the boy a cough drop from my pocket. Something small, something almost laughable against what we'd all lost. His mother's eyes filled and emptied at the same time. Gratitude costs too much when there's no way to repay it. We traded. A protein bar for a bottle of water. Half a pack of antibiotics for a strip of jerky. Every trade is a gamble, but survival is made of gambles. Ray lingered at a stall that had shoes in piles, her sneakers chewed down to threads. I gave her the look a parent gives when the money isn't enough, and she gave me back the look of someone who's already learned not to ask. By the time we left, the sun was leaning hard toward night. The market buzzed with whispers we weren't supposed to hear, rumors of raiders moving nearby, whispers of cults stealing children, prayers that sounded more like bargains. As we slipped out, I wrote, Day 27, supplies, barely, health, worse, morale, thin, but still alive. 3 days, 3 chances. Day 29. 1 night left. We chose the tunnels because bridges were suicide and rooftops were already claimed. The tunnels promised a shortcut, but shortcuts ask for payment. The air stank of rust and mold. Our footsteps splashed in water that had nowhere to go. Echoes bounced back to us, one too many. We weren't alone. He stepped from the dark like the nightmare I hadn't finished yet. wound scar across his cheek, smile cut from the same knife he carried. The men flanking him were hungry shadows, but Boone's eyes did all the speaking. "You made me work for it," he said. His keys jingled with every step. "But everything you've got still belongs to me." I tried reason. "There's enough cure for everyone." "There's no need for this," Boone laughed, and the tunnel carried it like a hymn. "There's always need. Need is all there is." He lunged, knife flashing. Water surged as we fought. My shoulder cut open, his grip like iron. Ray's lighter flicked once, caught a second of his face, then vanished into smoke. My blood mixed with the flood, turning the tunnel into a ledger where each move was debt. I slammed him against the pipes. His chain of keys clattered. For a heartbeat, I thought I had him. Then his men surged forward. Ray screamed, throwing a rock that cracked against the wall, enough of a distraction to make them stumble. I twisted Boone's wrist, tore the knife free, and drove my elbow into his scar until he howled. We ran, water dragging at our legs, Boone's laughter chasing us. Not broken, not beaten, just patient. "This isn't over," he shouted, and I believed him. His voice followed us into the night, promising one last test. I wrote with shaking hands. Day 29, health, bleeding, supplies, low. Enemy, still alive. Tomorrow decides everything. Day 30. The gate rose like a promise and a threat. Floodlights carved daylight out of night. A digital clock glowed above the barricade, every second bleeding away. Survivors pressed against the fences, hands reaching, faces wild. Soldiers barked orders, gunfire cracking into the air to push the tide back. It didn't matter. Desperation was a tide no bullet could hold. I steadied Ray. Her skin burned with fever, her legs weak, but her eyes still sharp. "Don't let me fall," she whispered. I locked my arm under hers and promised without words. We moved through the chaos. A boy cried in panic beside us, sobbing like the air itself was poison. I crouched, put a hand on his shoulder. "Breathe with me," I told him. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. His sobs slowed, his breath steadied. Survival is nothing more than lending calm when someone else has none. At the checkpoint, a soldier in dusty fatigues shouted for names. "Marcus Hale," I said. "Ray." He scribbled fast, took our blood, checked our eyes. Syringes hissed, the antidote rushing into our veins. Relief is a strange taste, sweet, bitter, guilty. We had made it. Mission complete, but survival never ends clean. Of course he came. Mud caked on his boots, eyes feral, laughter sharpened into a weapon. Boone forced his way through the crowd, knife raised, promising his story wasn't finished. But Ray was faster. Fever and all, she swung a metal pipe with everything she had. It cracked against his arm, dropped him to his knees. Soldiers swarmed, rifles pressed to his back, dragging him into the dirt. Still he laughed. A weaker sound now, but still the laugh of a man who would rather burn than admit defeat. For a moment, the safe zone became a battlefield. Hope on one side, hunger on the other. But Boone's story ended at the gate. Ours did not. Inside, the safe zone smelled like sweat, medicine, and hope barely holding together. Medics moved in frantic rhythm, soldiers shouting, children crying. Ray leaned against me, weak but breathing, the antidote already cooling her fever. I opened my notebook. 30 days of numbers stared back at me. Food, gone. Water, gone. Health, scarred. Morale, tested, broken, rebuilt. I wrote on the last page, mission complete. New objective, help others through. 30 days had taught me grief, hunger, betrayal, and hope. It taught me that silence is heavy, but laughter is heavier when you find it again. The world hadn't ended, it had changed. And sometimes, 30 days is enough.